Hello, everybody. This is James DeBow on Discovering Season 5, dedicated to original people. And we got a special guest in today, Mr. Carl Collins. How you doing, Carl?
Nephew?
Great to see you.
Long time. This has been trying to arrange this, and now here we are.
Here we are now. Now, we've got a few things to talk about now. You know, first of all, Carl's a DJ going from, I don't know how long back, before I was born.
I would say I'm an entertainer, rather a DJ.
What's the difference, if you could tell us?
For me,
yeah,
I play to entertain the people. I don't try and scratch. I don't try and mix. I play to entertain from young to old, from black to white, from rich to poor.
All ages.
All ages, some genres. I try to entertain.
Okay.
I leave DJing to those who DJ.
Right, okay, I get you. You don't want to mess and start, that scratching.
That's not me.
Enjoy the song.
Enjoy what I play.
That's what it's about.
As I say on my radio show, I play what I feel and feel what I play.
Okay. So now, also, that's one topic, but there's other topics also. Rugby. I used to always hear you talking about rugby. You got your sons into rugby. The history with you playing rugby, was your aim to go professional when you were younger?
No.
You just loved it. You just enjoyed it.
Let's see. Okay. The aim wasn't to be professional because rugby union didn't become professional till 1995. The aim was just to play rugby and enjoy the sport that I was playing. So if I was at school, the aim was to get into the school team. When I was at college, get into the college team because I liked rugby. Like I said, professionalism didn't acquire a turn up until 1995. So there was no professionalism.
So rugby league is different from rugby union.
Right. Rugby league was a breakaway of rugby union. Back in the 18, 19, whatevers, rugby up north of England, where Leeds, Warrington, Wigan, they felt they should be paid to play because most of those guys were working men and they had to give up their time to play. And they could get injured and so that means they're not going to work. So they felt they needed to be paid to play.
Right, okay.
Down in the south of England, we played for the good of the sport. It's not the winning, it's the taking part mentality.
Ah, yeah.
So there was no official payment until professionalism in 95.
Wow, okay.
After the South Africa World Cup.
Yeah.
When they started to sign up players and they said, well, okay, we need to be paid.
Okay. Now, one more thing that we must always mention, it's a real tough thing that you've gone through, sickle cell. Now, this is, I only heard about black people going through sickle cell. I don't know about other people around the world, but as far as we know, black people go through it. I mean, what was that like through, was you born with sickle cell or was it come on you later?
Okay. Sickle cell, blood disorder, black people have sickle cell.
Yeah.
If you're Greek or Mediterranean, you have thalassemia. It's a derivative of sickle cell.
Okay.
The count is 1 in 4 black people can get full-blown sickle cell. So if you got a parent that's got SS sickle cell and a parent that's got SA sickle cell and they've got children, 1 in 4 will have a form of sickle cell. You have SC, okay, which basically makes you sort of a carrier. Sorry, SA, you have a carrier. SC, you've got sickle cell, you're going to get some form. And SS is the most severe form of sickle cell that you can get.
Okay, right, okay. Different levels of it, yeah.
Because if I was to draw out the graph, you would see that you have SA, AS, SC, CS, SS, the various forms of sickle cell. that you can get.
Yeah. So, have you obviously you must have found like throughout your life? I mean, having to live with sickle cell, and you were playing rugby, you were doing your passion, your music, DJing, everything. So, did that interfere? It must have interfered many times in your life. Was that the reason why you stopped playing rugby? Would you say
it's raised its head a couple of times?
Yeah.
Because when you go through a crisis,
Yeah.
the thing about a crisis, the thing about a crisis is it hits the joints. It's pain. It's immense pain. And you don't know how long that pain will last. You just have to go under pain management, whether that be taking some form of tablet medication or going to hospital and be on a morphine, as I was.
Yeah.
Or blood transfusions.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So once every 4 weeks or so, you have a blood transfusion. It stops the build up of. It's like clearing out the system effectively.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And then it just restarts the clock.
So there's a few things that have affected you. I remember your eyesight.
Yeah. So you've got your eyesight. You can go blind from it. I know in America, I think they took out the pancreas.
Pancreas?
Yeah. I think they used to have from a policy called From the Cradle to the Grave.
Wow.
So when they identified you as a child, a baby with sickle cell, you're not automatically put into that level of care from the cradle to the grave.
Right, okay.
But in this country, you don't have that knowledge when you go into work environment. There's not a lot of people. It's what I'd call a hidden disease. It's a disability that you can't see.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you can't see it, you're okay until you have a crisis.
Until you have a crisis.
And then you have to deal with the work experience. Because if you're off sick a lot with a disability that most white people at work have never heard of, you have to deal with their prejudice as to say, I think this person is swinging a lead. He just wants to get off of work.
Okay.
And then you have to deal with that, which I have had to do in my personally.
That's terrible, because you told on record as well. And
if I speak personally, I've had a manager call me in for a meeting about my medical record and stating about my sickle cell. And he was asking me questions about my sickle cell. And throughout this interview, I thought, these questions are a bit in depth coming from a layman.
Yeah.
Where's it coming from? So I actually asked him, I said to him, where are you getting these questions from? Because your knowledge of sickle cell is limited to 0. So where are you getting these questions from? And he turned around and said to me, my wife is a nurse, so I asked her.
Yeah.
And she gave me these questions to ask you. So, because I didn't believe you. So, at that which point I went, okay, fine. I got up left and contacted the union. Because you're not supposed to do something like that.
Yeah.
He had no belief that I was ill.
Just believing that, like, you want to just stay off sick and...
Yeah. Another case is that I had a manager that never believed me at all until I was on a training course with a few colleagues. We went up for a training course. I went ill and I had to be put into hospital that very day. So while we were at breakfast, my co-workers saw me go sick, saw the ambulance arrive, and saw me go to hospital in the space of an hour. By the time they reported that back to my manager, he now believed it was an illness. And he actually saw the speed I can go down at. And then his attitude changed. But when I was telling him what I was going through, there was no belief.
Wow.
And that's the problem that we've got to, that's the issue we have to overcome, because we need to more light to be shone on this so that black people don't have to go through that.
That's right.
Having to prove that they are ill.
Yeah.
Having to prove that they're sick.
And also, retired man now. Well, you still got your hobbies.
I say retired. My wife says I'm having a rest.
Okay. So what's that mean?
Take your pick. It means take your pick.
Yeah. You know what? I mean, at the end of the day, either way, if you're retired, you're still going to be doing something. You know, you're not a guy who just likes to just sit around as a, busy man, and your barbecues are amazing. Where did you learn to cook some amazing barbecues, by the way, anyway?
Something, it's fun. It's enjoyable trying to do a barbecue that someone else will enjoy. That's it. It's that.
Did you make him roots where you learned a lot of your parents?
Oh, yes.
Of course, isn't it?
Before you even get to the barbecue stage, as a child, you're eating your Caribbean food.
Yeah.
Most people can turn around. I actually watched a program this week called Couples Come Dine With Me, where they had a Ghanaian couple on, and they did cowfoot tripe and I think oxtail soup. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Come Dine With Me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
And I watched this white couple try to eat this Ghanaian soup with a knife and fork. I found it hilarious. It was I've never seen anyone eat eat soup with a knife and fork, but this couple was trying to do that.
Good luck.
And then you have another couple they also did planting as a starter. And this other couple had never had planting before.
Yeah.
So that was their first time. So they'll always remember the first time they've had that meal, had that.
And speaking of food, by the way, because when I've come up to London and you show me around different things, we talk a lot about how things are for black people in Liverpool, and then we look at London where it's established and the more going on. So when you come to Liverpool, which you've came for the last long time. Let's just say long time. Yeah. So what, from your knowledge, what you've got of Liverpool, and you're looking at London, you've came here all the years and no one's been able to take you to meet your needs. And I feel bad, even like I should be able to take you places or other people in the family or something. But how do you take Liverpool?
When I first came up to Liverpool, there were black places that your father could take me to.
Now, what year are we dealing with, just so people know?
We're talking early 80s.
Early 80s.
Mid 80s. Your father would take me to a club that was black.
Yeah.
Your father would take me around. Your Uncle David could take me somewhere to have a meal.
Oh, David's always partying there.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
At least there was something for black people then. It's eroded to nothing. So in my opinion, there is nothing here for a black person. In Liverpool, I despair for the young black youth. And I despair because there is no, in my opinion, there is no restaurant I could go to, a black-owned restaurant I could go to and have a meal with my missus. There isn't. I haven't seen one. There isn't a black-owned club I can go to and listen to the sort of music that I would listen to in London.
Yeah.
There is none. There's nothing for black people in Liverpool. It's lost it. I don't know when it'll get it back. Things like this, what you're doing here today, that will help.
Yeah.
But
I'm one man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're a pebble in a lake making a ripple.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Where's the black businesses that's black owned? Where could you take me apart from a black museum to the slave museum? I went there many years ago.
Yeah.
Where is it? I'll ask you the question. Where is a black restaurant that you could go to?
Okay, we have Ray's, Sefi, brother from Guyana. He's been going for the last few years. Now, he's on by Park Road. we have Raggers on Smithdown Road.
Is that for a restaurant you sit down and have a meal, or are we talking a takeaway?
No, both. Yeah, I mean, but it's not like big restaurant. Maybe 3-4 tables or something in there. Same with Ray Ray's. But I think what you mean is a big, like an actual restaurant where many people can come in.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that. I did go to a Nigerian restaurant on Prescott Road. They've got 2 now, and to be honest, they're actually the biggest. But this is like, a lot of people haven't heard of these restaurants, though. This is the funny thing. It's not like where it's this. There's a demand where we need to be finding these places.
Well, I would say to you is that I think maybe you need to go out into the community, let them know about your show, and let them come in and promote.
Yeah. Well, I try to. That's what I do. I get all different.
What's happening in London at the moment? We have what's called Black Pound weekends.
Black Pound, yeah.
And there's one coming up in a couple of weeks in Wembley. We've had one about 3 weeks ago, where it's black entrepreneurs getting together and promoting. It's called the Black Pound.
We have something like that, actually. We actually had Black Pound Day, but the only problem is we only have so many people. We're looking for who we can spend our Black Pound with. You know, it's like, it's really...
Well, that's what I'm saying. What you need to... What they're doing in London is basically they're hiring out a hall and having them all in one spot. So you're not searching for it.
Yeah.
And say, for argument's sake, the 1st of August, whatever day it is, that's a Black Pound Day.
Yeah.
Anyone who's got something positive to sell, show their wares, come to that hall that day. Set up your stall that day. Invite the black community to come and see what it is that we're selling.
That's
what
right.
is we got on offer. Liverpool needs to play catch up.
What advice? So the advice from you, because you're seeing it, you're living it. And because, rather than me just say, Liverpool no good, we always have to think, well, how can we fix it? What is the solution?
Well,
because we have to look at where it's happening for black people, for those...
well, the question is, where is it happening for black people in Liverpool? That's a question.
I think there's the Scovering show on here.
Where is it happening?
But,
so if you want to start, you've got a hall, invite your entrepreneurs to come to that hall. Start there. Let that ripple effect happen. Because once you bring your wares to the hall as a stall, the next thing is that where can I find you? I've actually got a little shop in the corner down here. Come to that shop. Okay. Then I now know that there's a shop here in an area that I'm not necessarily familiar with.
That's right. So the consistency is lost in Liverpool.
Define consistency.
Yeah.
You're consistently bad.
Yeah.
You're consistently not here.
Yeah. Because from the 80s, I mean, we just gone real fall, and, it's a big fall. It's a bit of a big fall, So, but I like here when you've showed me around, like, so many Caribbean restaurants in London, African restaurants you show me. And this is only in a space of 5 minutes you've driven. And I remember you showed me, there's one. And I'm like, well, this is like, we are just missing a lot of things. I understand it's the capital, London, but people say about Manchester, Leeds, Birmingham as well.
It can be replicated.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And that's the thing. Just because I showed you in London, it doesn't mean it can't be replicated anywhere else, because there are black people everywhere.
And speaking of consistency, a song you were playing before, this is definitely consistency. Let's go back into the late 80s. Well, Carl, anyway, going back to his early music days, used to be bringing all the songs and DJing down in Liverpool, as he does in London. And there was a song that always stood out to me, and it was Proud to be Black. Now, this song, Carl tell you how many times he'd have to play it when I was there. You couldn't play it once, twice, 3 times. You had to play it about 10, 20 times in one night when I was about 9, 8 or something. You know what I mean?
Yes. I'm beginning to think that that's the start of your journey. If I was going to identify For me,
From that to discovering now.
yeah, from there to where you are now, I'd have to say maybe I could point to that song as saying the start of your journey.
I would agree.
And I do have it here. I do have it lined up, and I will play some of it. It was by Crucial Robbie. It came out in 87, 88. It's called Proud to be Black.
Yeah.
And I believe that this song needs to be updated for this generation.
Definitely. Proud to be black. But I remember if you go on YouTube, there's all these different versions. I couldn't find this version.
You went to the wrong source.
I'm gonna have to go direct to you.
Exactly.
I'm coming to you to get it.
We should be. This is in the 80s when we're talking about Proud to be Black.
And the greats, Bob Marley, Garvey, Nelson Mandela, all the names. Yeah.
Right, you see, here we go, even in this song. And the songs that I grew up on taught me a lot of my history. Because as you will know, that black history wasn't taught in schools.
Definitely.
We weren't brought up with it.
Yep.
What we had was media's version of what they wanted us to see. Yeah. So you had things like growing up, the black and white minstrel show.
Yep.
Which my mother hated with her passion.
Oh, yeah.
My mother used to say, God, I hope the black never comes off.
Yeah.
We had that sort of thing. We had Love Thy Neighbour, a show that will never be shown on TV again. You'd have to search for it, or probably on YouTube.
Okay.
Because of the content of the language that was used at the time. That's why they wouldn't show it on TV now.
Right.
But it had a massive viewing audience. So basically, Love Thy Neighbour was featured a black couple that moved into a house that was next to a white couple. The husbands didn't really get on, black and white, but they also worked at the local factory. They also drank in the local pub, but they still never got on.
Okay.
But the language that was used of the time, nig, nog, wog, all the rest of it, that's why it can't be shown.
Okay.
But the thing about that show, when you look back on it, or even at the time, is that as much as it was written with inflammatory language, the white neighbour, Eddie, never got the better of the black neighbour. At the end of the show, the black guy was always on top somehow.
Yeah. Naturally.
But that was lost. Those little nuances was actually lost on those bigots and NF, National Fronters and all the rest of it.
Ah, right.
They fixated on the language and all and that sort of thing.
Mm.
And you had so little black representation, it's sporadic, that you can name the shows. Now you got your little producer around the corner, hide away in the booth. And when I first went to New York in the 80s and I put on the TV and I saw the amount of black people on TV, I went, wow. Wow. Really? I went, damn.
Funny you mentioned that because, you know, my first movies, you know, it was obviously focused on America. Look, I remember Lenny Henry from London. I was like, who else was there at the time? Well, comedians and...
Well, Lenny Henry was there from the 70s.
It's gone way
Okay.
back. Yeah.
He's actually came through a show called New Faces back in the 70s.
Yeah.
76 or something like that.
Wow. Yeah, yeah.
And for a long time, he was that standard bearer. There's a comedian, Gina Yashere. She makes a joke that says, I can't wait for Lenny Henry to die so they can find another black comedian, a black British comedian.
Yeah.
But we've had so many. It's just that they weren't featured.
Mm.
Okay, they weren't featured. They never got their own show, and some of them deserved it.
Okay.
They really deserved it,
Wow.
but they never got their own show.
This is why another reason on this show, most people who come on, I'll always ask them the importance of African history. And just like Baki was saying, what gets taught in schools, we ain't going to learn it through that. And I see Pan-Africanism, London, Jamaica, wherever we are in the diaspora, like where Marcus Garvey was from, it's the Pan-Africanism to pull us all apart, well, to pull us together. And how important do you think it is for the youth to know our history, rather than just we went through the slave trade when we had great history before that, you know?
Before I answer that, I'm going to play a Chronics track.
Chronics, I like Chronics.
Okay.
Yeah. You got me into Chronics, actually.
I'm going to answer that question.
The music I speak.
Yeah. Because like I say, when I was growing up, it was music that...
The music taught.
If you listen to the lyrics of this Chronics track...
How old is this Chronics? It's been going a long time, this track.
I'd say it's about 5 years old.
5 years. Okay.
Today I'll sing you a black song. You need to hear about beautiful black things. Cause most time we hear about black, we hear about black magic and black witches. Blacklist, black book, black market, black Friday, you spend off your black riches. I've never seen a doctor in black, nor seen a black pill for curing a black.
Very nice.
But I've seen witch doctors like Josh and Molly resurrect like a real black beetle. Malcolm, Marcus, Martin.
And when he mentioned about all the different negativity views on the term black, blacklisted, blackboard, black labelled,
Yep.
the whole list, you can go on forever.
Here we go. That black is beautiful.
Black is beautiful.
What he said is that he's never seen a doctor in black,
Yeah.
but they've shown us witch doctors.
Right, okay, yeah.
Yeah. They don't want to show us a doctor in a white coat, but they're willing to show us a witch doctor.
Yeah, definitely. But
So when you talk about
So-
black history,
yeah,
why do we need to know it? It's because of that. We would show doctors in a white coat, not a witch doctor. If we control the narrative, we can put out the content and we can say what it is. Because in my opinion, what this country needs is a black British museum.
definitely.
Okay, so we can put out the content. We don't need a room in a museum. We don't need a floor in a museum. We need the museum.
The whole museum. Yeah,
And we can import and show in context the whole story from start to finish.
yeah,
That's what we require. That's what we desperately need, is a black British museum.
definitely.
At the moment, children are learning now about black history.
Yeah,
I don't know who is choosing the content. I don't know who or how they're reporting the context of the subject matter that they're. But in a black museum, we control it.
yeah,
We find the artifacts. We put the story out behind it. We give the truth behind it.
we got to control it.
If we control it, we can put the truth out.
Yeah,
We don't have to put out the nice narrative.
just tell the truth.
An example of this is Windrush. The Empire Windrush docked in, I think it was Plymouth, 1947, 22nd of June. We now have Windrush Day. So we're supposed to celebrate the start of the Caribbean influx. That's the narrative that they want you to see. The reality behind it is that they didn't want you to hear, they didn't want them to hear at all. Now, here's where I say that if we have the information, we can put the true story, and you're seeing the whole story, not part of a story, the bit where it's all good now, since George Floyd, and we welcome you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, the true story behind Windrush is that they never really wanted this here. After the war, After the Second World War, yes, Britain was in a dire state. They needed bodies. Every country needed bodies to come and rebuild their country. Britain couldn't hang on to their empire. You had the Commonwealth now. Each country almost takes care of itself. The Commonwealth, no longer the empire. So Britain had to ask, went to their Commonwealth to ask, can you come and help rebuild the motherland? But what they were hoping for was a white part of the Commonwealth. They were hoping for the Canadians, the South Africans, the Australians and New Zealanders. That's who they really wanted.
Okay.
What they got was the dark half of the Commonwealth.
Yep.
The Caribbean, the African side. And then later in the late 60s, 70s, the Asian side, the Indian side. That's what they got. Now, I personally went to the Imperial War Museum some years ago, and they had an exhibition of the black experience from 1947 through to the 80s. And there, you could read the transcripts of everything that had pertained to the Empire Windrush. The reality is that if they wanted to send the ship back, actually, they actually wanted to send that ship to Canada.
Yeah.
They didn't want it here, but it gone too far. It came into Tilbury. It got too far, so they couldn't turn it around.
Okay.
It got too far.
Yeah.
So it ended up here. They didn't want the people on that ship here, but the arrangement was people on the ship, most of them fought for Britain as part of the RAF during the Second World War. So if they fought for Britain, no one can argue when we ought to say they can come in. That's why a lot of them actually had their uniforms on.
Yeah.
If you look at old black and white footage, you'll see them in their service uniforms.
Okay.
So, but they were needed, but not wanted.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Carl? I mean, because we're coming near to the end of the show now, but I mean, we'll have to probably do a part 2, a follow-up soon also as well. You know, Amiga, is that the name? Radio station?
Amiga FM 104.1.
Yeah, you know, that's
where you'll find me.
And which day? Is it on every day?
It's on every day.
It's on every day, yeah.
Amiga promotes black awareness. They'll do a lot of podcasts, though it'll be American, on black awareness, black culture.
Yeah. Well, I missed me. I was supposed to get on last time, but hopefully you can reschedule me when I come back up and that.
But I'm on the music side of it. I will play music.
Yeah. Well, definitely though, Carl, you know, I want to thank you very much for today though. And, you know, you're very clued up with, you know, the whole narrative, how it is and that. And yeah, we've got to be passing down our history. We've got to like positive things, not just, we were slaves and chains. And that's just, I mean, putting on roots. This is the thing where I have a different narrative now. When I was younger, I got roots put on for me, just like we all did. But I thought to myself, when I started having children, I don't think I want to put roots on. I think I want to show them. I can explain to them about it, but I think that's early trauma.
Well,
you know what I mean?
It depends.
But
it depends on the age.
True. I was like 9 or something.
You make it age appropriate.
Yeah.
So if they come to you at a certain age about it, you talk to them a certain way about it. When they're older, more mature,
to understand it,
then you can actually talk to them another way. Here's another track I would say, because history through music is not a bad thing. If you stop to listen to the lyrics of some of the songs, I grew up with this. Songs like this, Sweet Africa by Jean Rondo.
Yeah.
Stop to listen to the lyrics. You will learn.
That's amazing that though, because some people will tell me of Caribbean descent, Caribbean roots, he was saying that they learned a lot of their history, not from their parents teaching them it, through music. Bob Marley, different people like that. So this is why it's so important for them positive musicians, you know, like Bob Marley's and that. We can learn totally off them. But we definitely have to do a part 2 to this. You know, I want to thank you, and we'll end it out with the song. This is season 5, Discover Them with James DeBoat, dedicated to original people as always. And I want to thank Carl Collins. It's been a pleasure.
No problem.
And we're going to end it out with this amazing song now. Reggae, get into the soul. Bless Carl.
Thank you.
Respect.